Class? Let's see here. How is everybody today?
Fine.
I know, such enthusiasm. Did you just have lunch?
Yeah.
Tired from lunch?
Yeah.
All right, so my job will be to get you past being tired from lunch and get you excited for. Who's excited to learn today? Raise your hand. Right, very good, very good. So, my name is Kevin Popovich. I will be your instructor for this class, and we will be learning about what are you here to learn about today? Yeah, I'm sure about Americans. I don't know if I will be the best example of American for you, but I will try. What are we here to learn today? Social media, right? Who knows about social media? Who knows something about social media? Right? Who knows a lot about social media? I know a lot, you know a little. I will teach you what I know, right? That's why you're here. We are going to use my book, Satellite Marketing, as the text for this class. We'll give you a link and you will, we'll get the book out sometime today. But I have been working on this book for 8 years. So one of two things, either I type very slow, or maybe I put a lot of thought into this book. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Right? But I have been working on social media and trying to figure out social media since before they called it social media. Right? So, so some of the early social media that I had experience with. Anybody ever hear of America Online, AOL?
No.
Right. So that's how old I am. Right. I experienced things you've never even heard of yet. So yeah, so in the early days of America Online and chat room, and I remember seeing the first graphic that got sent over the internet was the little envelope that like folded up and then it and it took forever. Yeah, like to do like all these really basic things, right? Because it just wasn't like social media was always around, right? Social media has only been around since 2007, 2006, 2007-ish types of things. So there has been a lot of learning that has come into this new communications channel. And I'm very interested in communications. I have been a student of communication all of my academic and professional career. Right? I was always very interested in how people communicate for different reasons and how do you get people to do the things that you want them to do. My father was a professor of marketing. My uncle was a international business consultant, and my grandmother sold shoes for 30 years, right? And at my grandmother's dinner table, I would get all of this information and experiences and stories about how different people were communicating. So when social media came to be, social media was kind of a mix of a lot of different things that I had experienced. Anybody play video games? Right, I was a big gamer, right, and then and so I enjoyed technology and I like winning in video games. So I had a very technical kind of nerdy side, right, that was very interested in how this technology was going to work. And I have a creative agency called Idea House, and for 25 years I've run an agency whose focus has been on communications. So when social media came to be, it was a number of things that hadn't ever been together all in the same place. Right? So interesting to me. So I took a great interest in it, and I explored it quite a bit. So to my point of why my book took 8 years, because very early on, a lot of people had some early impressions and ideas, and a lot of times they would use metaphors. Right? I remember one guy's, it says, think of social media like a garden. I don't get the garden metaphor. I'm like, what's it, like a tomato? Is it a cucumber? I didn't get garden, right? And then one woman I know says, well, it's kind of like a butterfly. And I'm like, enough with the metaphors. Just tell me what it is. Tell me what it isn't. So I spent a lot of time trying to understand what social media is so that I can include social media in with the services that my agency provides our clients. Right? So we help our clients figure out what to say and how to say it to their prospects, to get them to call, click, stop in, buy, any of the things associated with business. Right? So it's very important that business people know how to use social media. It's a very prevalent communications channel now, right? Most everybody uses social media, right? So there has been a lot of learning, a lot of thinking that has gone into the process that I'm going to teach you. And I will show you ways that social media can be included to help you achieve business goals, right? How many people have companies or products or businesses that they're working on today? Who wants to grow up and have their own company, right? So social media is probably going to be one of the communications tools that you use to communicate to your target markets, no matter what business that you use. So we'll use my book as a text and the process included in there to help you learn more. So outside of this being a really interesting design, this design is my metaphor for how I explain social media. So the very first time that I had to explain what social media is, I was in a conference that I was the speaker of, and it was an conference, and I was supposed to give an update on the state of communications, right? So marketing, design, branding, public relations, all types of, we'll call commonplace business communications. People wanted to know, where was everything? And then they said, oh, and we want to know about social media. And there's going to be 6 gentlemen in the audience that are owners of some of these, and they don't have any idea about computers or what social media is, and you have to help them figure out what it is. So I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to think about you gentlemen in their early 70s. How would you describe social media to somebody in their early 70s? Does anybody have any idea? So if your grandfather wanted to know about social media, what would you say to your grandfather? So it's a way to communicate, yeah, right? Which is it the best way? Is it the bad way? The both. Yeah.
Good way, or unless you something.
Right. Please.
It's long visual. If you see something, you can show. It's more visual thing. Maybe you can write words in a video or something. It's like.
I didn't know either. I was trying to make something up. Anybody else any ideas? How would you explain to your grandfather what social media is? Yes.
You can spy the neighborhood without something.
I'm sorry?
You can spy the neighborhood without opening the window.
Yeah. Okay. Here.
That's a okay to
Yeah. Okay. So I'll show you the way that I had done it. Right? Whenever we try to communicate with somebody, you need to find a common language, right? And you have to be sure that that they have some kind of understanding of what you're trying to share with them. So I had noticed that these gentlemen had this small American flag on their lapel. Many of the people that have served in the U.S. Army will wear an American pin, right? So I'm trying to think, well, my grandfather served in the American Armed Services. I'm thinking, okay, how would I tell this to my grandfather? So I asked the gentleman, I said, how many of you have served in the armed forces? All 6 of them raised their hand up. I'm like, okay. I said, during the war, I said, who were you at war with? And one guy said, Germans. I said, the other guy said, Russians. I said, yeah. So let's talk about the Russians. I said, what did the Russians do? Well, they were in the war with us. I'm like, yeah, they were in the war. I said, you remember that thing they put up in space, right? And one of the guys goes, Sputnik. I'm like, yeah, he's all excited. You remember what the satellite name was? I'm like, yeah, Sputnik. I said, what did Sputnik do? He goes, it spied on us. I said, well, how did it spy on us, right? And the guy said, well, it circled up over the Earth, and when it got over top of us, it took pictures of all what we were doing. I said, yeah. I said, think of it like that, right? So I drew a very simple circle, something like this. Okay. I put it satellite in the middle. I drew 3 circles, right? And there was just a line that came right up the center. said, think of social media like this, like it's a satellite, right? You put something out here, and eventually it finds an orbital path, and eventually gets here, has a line of sight, you come in communication with it, right? And there's different types of satellites that do different things, right? So now you have different satellites, right? Whether a satellite's called Facebook, whether a satellite's called Instagram, whether a satellite's called Snapchat, right? They all do different things, and they have the ability to communicate with one another, right? You have different lines of sight. I said, and every so often, these satellites come in line with people, right? And people use this technology to communicate. And on governments sort of like nod their heads like they got it. So that's how I came up with satellite marketing, right? It's a way for us to turn social media into marketing substations or satellites. Each one can do a different thing, and they can connect one to another. So the early version of the diagram was something like this, and I use this for instructional purposes. The family is something like this. It's still people in the center of social media, right? And then there are these different types of social media that people can become involved with. So I really boiled it down to 3 types of social media, right? One is social networking, where you connect with him. 2 people connect together. That's the basis of most social networking, right? And then you have content sharing, where you'll get somebody here, will share things out to more than one person. Share it, you have a picture, you'll share it with your 2 friends, right? And then you have collaboration, where people come together to work on different projects. So most social media can be described as either social networks, content sharing, or collaboration, right? So this design depicts my methodology, my process, the way that I think about social media, that people are always at the center of social media. And it doesn't matter which platform that you're on, right? It's people using technology to communicate with other people, right? And what other types of technology do people use to communicate? Sorry? Raise your hand, please. Yeah. Mobile phone, yeah. Right? What else do we use? Right? Television, radio, right? Email, right? All of these different technologies facilitate communication, right? And that's all that social media does too. It facilitates communication. So one of the things that was interested in me in my studies was, so many people know how to use technology today, right? How many people know how to use a telephone, right? How many people know how to use a fax machine, right? How many people know how to use a television, right? And a cable box, right? Again, we know how to use technology to communicate, but all of a sudden, people got weird when it was social media, right? They're like, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Well, you figured out when you picked up the phone and somebody says hello, what do you say? Hello. There you go. It's not that hard, right? And then people would get like, well, I don't know, what to do that. So one of the things that I thought was really just interesting is how people got really weird when you started trying to communicate with social media, right? So I spent a lot of time investigating how people were using social media, and I just couldn't get it, right? Because we learned a lot of lessons about other types of technology, right? So why couldn't we just take what we learned from the technology that we were already using and apply those lessons to social media, right? So again, this is the diagram that will be different icons that we have to speak about the different types of social media, and we will get into a bit of a process, right? So here's the process that I've established on what I know about other types of communications and what I've learned about social media on how to make social media, right? Because I think anytime that you have a task at hand, if you can follow a process, right, then I think that make sure that you do things in the right order, and that you will increase your chances of being successful, right? So let me share what I think about in this process. So the first thing that I think in any type of business communication is to establish a goal, right? There has to be some kind of goal, right? If you don't know where you're going, how will you know when you get there? Was always a phrase that my grandfather used to tell me, right? If you don't know where you're going, how will you get there? Right? So you have to figure out where you're going, right? So when you start with your goals, you start with, why are we doing this? All right? Start with why. There's an author, Simon Sinek, says, identify the purpose, cause, or belief that inspires you to do what you do. This will help you figure out your why. For instance, why are you in this class? To learn. Sure. Right? So why would you use social media for your business? I'm sorry? Promote. Yeah, you can promote your business. What else? Why else would you use social media?
Spread information.
To spread information. Yeah, to share.
Popular.
Sorry?
Popular.
To popular.
To be popular.
To be, yeah, or depending on what the goal was, right? What else? Yes.
What is influence?
I'm sorry.
Is it influence?
Please.
Competition.
Yeah.
Easier competition.
Yeah. If you could speak up, please, a little bit. Yes.
Because this is how it works today.
This is how it is today, right? People use social media today, and based upon the different people, right? Some different age groups, different demographics use social media for different things. But a lot of business people use social media, right? So we have three different types of business, right? You have business to business, business to consumer, and you have nonprofit. So any types of businesses, almost all types of businesses are using social media in one way or another, right? But we have to figure out the why your business would use this, right? All of this is really, it's more business centric, right? There's obviously reasons that you would use it for personal, but we're really interested in learning how to use social media for business, right? That it is purposeful social media. How many people waste hours a day on social media? Yes. Is it now? So what's the purpose of spending hours a day? Is it just like instead of watching TV, you're on the internet? Please.
To be connected.
To be connected. Yeah, it's a different way to connect than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? So for business though, one of the challenges for businesses is that when you're investing time to do anything for business, you expect there to be a return, right? Be a reason that you get something out of investing all that time for business, right? And that reason is your why, right? Why social media? So for me, let me give you an example of why I use social media for my business, right? So I'm investing in social media, and I use the word investing because I expect to have a return, right? I'm investing in social media to create a contemporary perception of my brand, to increase the reach of my message, and to generate new customers, right? So again, I have a creative communications agency, like ad agency, marketing communications, right? And I invest a lot of time in the social media, but it's for these reasons. So again, I'm very purposeful on why I am investing in social media. Okay, so if these are my reasons why, right, this is what I need to do with it, right? I need to create social media profiles for my business that perpetuate my existing brand, right? So you familiar with branding logos for business, right? Packaging up a business to create perception, right? So business already has a look and feel to it. My social media now is an extension of how my business communicates. So I need my social media to sound like me and my company, to look like me and my company, again, to perpetuate my brand. Everything I've done everywhere else, I want it to be that way on social media, right? Why? Why should it be the same? Consistency.
Because it's like a window to show what's about the brand.
Exactly. It's a window. It's a different way that people look at you, right? See, because when any of you go to check out a new company, what's the first thing that you do? Like, what's one of the first things that you do?
Type the name.
Type in the name where?
Google.
In Google. That's exactly right. Type in the name Google, and what do you usually find? Websites, social media, maybe some wiki information, or depending on what you're looking for. Right? So social media is a way, it's one of the things that people come to check out. If you're either there or you're not. So if you're not on social media, what might that say about your business? Yes.
That you're not big enough.
Yeah, that you're not big enough,
Or
maybe.
you're not interesting, or you're not good quality, or something wrong with them.
Yeah, depending on the business, yeah. Yeah, right, that maybe, you know, like, so because the website's like another thing. If somebody doesn't have a website, people are like, what's up with you not having a website? Like, everybody has a website, right? So social, again, depending on the type of business. So girls, let me ask you this. So if you hear of a fashion designer, and you go to Instagram and you don't find her, what does that make you think about this fashion designer?
Not trendy.
Not trendy enough, right? So so there's expectations with different types of businesses. A lot of times you have to maintain those expectations. You have to meet those expectations, right? So how many people have a LinkedIn profile? Okay, how many people don't have a LinkedIn profile? Okay, my expectation of you not having a LinkedIn profile is that you are not prepared to get into business. That's my perception of that, right? So there's these types of things that we will bring, that each of us will bring to evaluating a business, right? So, so I need to make sure that my profiles, that I'm on the right social media platforms, and that my business looks like my clients and my prospects expect us to look. And it sounds like my company sounds. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Right? So the second thing, I need to build my social network from the users of select social media sites. Right? So like my business, like I'm not on Snapchat, you know, we have an Instagram account, but that's not really where I'm doing business on Instagram. We do some things that work like, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on the places that you would expect us to be. Right? So I'm only looking to build a network on the sites I'm active on, and that I expect that my clients and my prospects will find me on. Okay, does that make sense? Right? Does it make sense, you know, to do something big on YouTube if nobody that I'm trying to influence is on YouTube? Okay. Our third is, I need to use the social networks to generate leads that turn into clients. Right? I'm there for a purpose. I'm not just, you know, posting pictures and, you know, selfies and whatnot, and like, what's up? You know, like I'm trying, like this is a purpose. I'm there for business, right? I'm trying to make money on social media, right? So these three things are my reasons why my company is on social media. All this make sense? Right? All the basic reasons of why a business would be on social media. Okay? So, but again, you have to be sure of your reasons why. Right? You end up doing a lot of things that just they don't bring you any closer to your goal. You know, I had a senior designer, a great guy that helped me, and he used to always tell me. I would ask him about different design decisions I was going to make. And he told me this really great quote that I always found that helped me make decisions. He said, "Is what I am about to do bringing me closer to my goal, or taking me farther away from my goal?" Right? So with my goal in mind, I ask myself, is what I'm going to do on social media bringing me closer to these goals, or is it taking me farther away from these goals? And this is one of the ways that I decide on what I'm going to do, what networks I'm going to be on, the content that I share, how often I communicate, and with whom I create a network. Okay? Any questions so far on this? Right? Please, I do want us to make sure that we have conversations and that you understand anything. If anybody has any questions, please just raise your hand and I'll make sure that you get your questions answered, okay? So let's take a look at creating social media profiles for my business that perpetuate my existing brand. There's either, when do I evaluate this goal, right? You have to know when you're done, right? So I'm either going to pass or fail. In this goal, I either have passed my LinkedIn profile and my Facebook profile and a Facebook fan page and a Twitter profile and whatever else I'm going to do. It either matches my branding criteria or it doesn't. Okay? It's a simple pass fail, right? And I know that when I've completed this, I completed this specific goal, right? This isn't an ongoing thing. This is something you get set up once. Yeah, it looks like all the rest of your sites and your social. It's good to go. And then I can move on. Okay, but there's some other goals that are going to take more monitoring, and there's going to be some more thinking, because not all goals are created equal, right? Something is like a goal could be, I want to eat healthy this week. Great. At the end of the week, if you ate healthy, then you accomplished your goal. If at the end of the week you went to McDonald's 3 times and you ordered Domino's late night and you ate 12 candy bars, you did not eat healthy. You failed your goal. Okay? It has a beginning and an end, and it has some metric that tells you, did I accomplish it or not? How close did I get to my goal? This is easy, pass or fail. Now, number 2, build my social network from the users of select social media sites, right? This is another one that I can evaluate. So goal number 2 measures numbers, right? Currently, cumulatively, I can count and organize my social media networks, right? I know how many networks I have. I know how many contacts I have. These are all data points. They're numbers. It's a quantitative evaluation, right? So the audience of each social media profile is quantifiable. The system tells me how many friends, how many followers, how many likes, right? We get all these different data points from social media, right? I mean, how many people post something and then sees how many likes that they get, right? That's one of the ways it tells you, that's okay, you can say, yeah, I post stuff, it's okay. But that's one of the ways that we understand how well the content was accepted about our audience, right? If you pay attention to the data points, what do you learn over time, right? The selfies is you and your friends do better than pictures of your food, right? Unless anybody takes really great food pics. Anybody take really great food pics? Yeah. All right, just share a few pics. All right. So kind of stuff that you pay attention to. Remember, like all this social media is purposeful, right? So you can either think that you're doing well, or you can know that you're doing well. And the data points, the quantitative information that social media gives us, tells us if we're doing well. Okay. Now, there's other types of data that you can take too from this, but we'll get to that when we get a little further. So the next one is use social networks to generate leads that turn into clients. Does anybody have a job in sales? Right? So what's your job in sales? What is the main purpose of your job? Selling, right? That's it. So you need to go try to prospects, right? People who may be interested in what you sell. What do you sell?
Some products.
Okay, so you need to find people that are interested in what you sell. You need to talk to them, and then only some of them turns into money for you, right? Not everybody buys from you. Not everybody, right? So you get as many people to the top of the sales funnel, and then you know that a percentage of them will buy from you, right? It's very much the same in my business, right? That for every 100 people that come in the top, maybe I end up getting 6 that end up really turning 6, 8, depends, right? But not everybody, right? So in sales, right, we have to have some way to evaluate who all these connections are. Remember, for this is for my business, I need to go find different types of people, right? Who else is in sales? Okay, so this is how I evaluate my network, right? So, how many friends? Anybody have more than 1,000 friends or connections, right? More than 2,000? More than 3,000? All right, let's go. 500? All right, how many people do you guys on Facebook? Who's on Facebook? All right, who has, so how many people do you have? How many people do you have as friends on Facebook? A lot. Okay, right. So each of those people, they're not all the same people, right? So some people you see a lot of, some people you see every once in a while, and probably some people you can't even remember how you became friends with them, right? Same way too. So the people are on our social networks, right? The same thing on LinkedIn. Who's on LinkedIn? Right? How many people are you connected with on LinkedIn? No? Okay. Anybody have more than 1,000 connections on LinkedIn? No? I have 7,000 connections on LinkedIn, right? So, not all of those people are connected. They're not all the same to me. Not all 7,000 of those people can hire my company, right? Now, I have different types of people, and this is what I created here. I created a rubric. Anybody ever hear of a rubric before? right? So it's an educational tool. Like, so teachers use rubrics. Do you ever wonder like how the really long essay papers that you have to write get graded? Well, they come up with a rubric that says, did the students do this, 1 through 5? And it's a different way just to kind of look at a bunch of data, and you can organize things, and it helps you score things, right? So I at all of the different types of connections that I have on LinkedIn, right? And I have what we call referral, right? So in sales, everybody knows what a referral is. That's when somebody that says, hey, I know that sells cars. You should go to my friend because he'll get you a good deal on a car, right? That's a referral, right? So a lot of times I know people in business that aren't necessarily going to hire me, but they will recommend me or that I contact somebody, or they will recommend that somebody contact me. That's a referral, right? So those are good, right? But that doesn't, that referral doesn't come with money, right? That referral can't sign a contract, but it's an introduction. So there's a value in that. So I put a score of 1 on that, right? Now, an influencer, anybody know what an influencer is?
Yes.
Right, so
It's first people who are attracted by the product or make the other people do it.
I'm sorry, a little louder. I have the air conditioner up here, it's hard to hear.
It's the people they are the first to go to the product, want the product, or make the other people interested to the product.
Yeah, so like a lot of times in my business will be somebody that says, hey, we heard about his company, maybe we should give him a shot, maybe we should invite him in, or something. From my perspective, it's not coming out of my budget, but it looks good to me. It's somebody who influences the decision of a business, okay? So an influencer is important because there's a group of people that are making business decisions, right? So what I need to do is I need to influence the influencers so that they tell the guy who's going to sign the contract or the woman who's going to sign the contract that they should hire us, right? Now those people are valuable. I have those in the 3. Now you get an influencer with budget, right? Let me jump over to the decision maker. So the decision maker is the boss, right? That's the one that gets to sign the contract. That's the one that says, yes, we're going to hire his company. That's the guy that makes all the decisions. That's what we call decision maker. Now, decision maker usually is the guy or woman who also has the budget, right? Which means they've got money that they'll give my company, right? So a decision maker with the budget, I give that a 10. That's awesome, right? They're the one that gets to say yes, and they've got all the money. That's the most important person for me in business. Now, sometimes you have an influencer with it, and you also have to sign off on it, but it's coming out of his money, right? So I looked at my business. I looked at the types of people that this business, that my business interacts with, and I gave them each. Right. So if I look at the 7,026 connections I have, if I graded them appropriately and come with 43,561 points, I have an average of 6.2 out of my scale. Right. So it's somewhere right around here. Right. So is that good for me or bad for me? That's pretty good. I'm working on making it better. Right. But so this tells me that whatever I've done in social media is working because it's bringing me closer to my goal. It's connecting with me with people that can either be referrals, influencers, or decision makers, right? And these guys or girls are going to contribute to my business's success. This is how I know what I'm doing is working in social media, right? It's more than just, people liked my page, or, I got comments on on a post, I got hearts on my Periscope or whatever else, right? All that other stuff is they're interesting data points, but ultimately it has to have some impact on your business. That's what you're doing with this, right? And one of the ways that I'm able to evaluate is what I'm doing in social media is working. Just makes sense. Do you think that you could create one of these? Well, good, because you're going to get to create one of these. Right? See, there's a lot of exercises to do in this stuff, right? There's one thing for me to be here and lecture, and I enjoy lecturing, but I also like having conversations, and I like working on things together. So we will have some exercises that will help you take what you're hearing in these lectures and doing something with it in a group exercise so that you can apply it. Because what I want, is the purpose for you to come in here is for you to learn what I know about social media to put together a plan that makes sense towards goals and a way that you're able to measure it and then execute it for whatever your business purposes are. Any entrepreneurs in here? Right? What do you want to do? What kind of company will you have when you create your company? Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, what would you do with your company? I'm sorry?
Something about the French products
Mm-hmm.
in that region.
All right. So all of this stuff, so this is very applicable, particularly to entrepreneurs, because you have to do a lot with a little. You have to accomplish a lot with a lot of times small staff, a little budget, right, in short amount of time. This is a way that you're able to reach more people and make things happen, right? And if you are in management for a company, right, this is something that you should be aware of, because this is how companies plan things. This is where strategy comes from. So things I think that you will learn from here will be helpful in other things that you do as well. So let's take a look at this. Any questions so far? Right? Because all of this builds off of everything else and off of everything else. No questions. Yes, sir.
Can you speak slowly?
Yes, I can go slower. This is slow for me. So I will go. Thank you for helping me though. But so anybody ever been to like the eastern part of the United States?
Yeah.
Right? You ever been to New York? Right? You ever notice how people like talk really fast when they're in New York? Right? So yeah. So I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is close there. So we tend to speak very fast, and so I will try and slow it down. So just in case I go too slow, it's not that I think you're stupid. I'm trying to make sure that you understand everything is, because it's not how I normally speak. All right. So let's talk about SMART. Anybody ever hear about SMART goals?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah, they use these in other classes? Okay, so there are a number of ways that you can do goal setting, right? So SMART is one of the ways that I describe in the book for goal setting, right? So we'll review these, so you should know most of this already. So the first is specifics, right? So a specific goal has a much greater chance of accomplishing than a general goal, right? Vague generalized goals don't provide sufficient direction. Stating we want to be successful using social media isn't very much of a clear goal, right? Just saying let's be being good is not a goal, right? Gaining 5 new clients is a goal. Posting 2 times a day is a goal. Getting 100 likes is a goal, right? So those are the types of things when we talk about specifics, is that we need specifics, okay? So when you're setting a specific SMART goal, right, there are different questions that you could ask. For instance, who? Like, who is involved in the goal? What do I want to accomplish? Right? Where? Location that we're talking about. When is the time frame? Which identifies the requirements and constraints? Why? Provide reasons for accomplishing the goal. So words like who, what, where, when, which, why, right? That will help you put the specifics into the goal so that you'll know how you're progressing towards the goal, right? Makes sense? You guys have covered all this, all the different W's. I don't want to tell things. Has anybody not been exposed to SMART goals before? Okay, well, we'll pick up the pace without speaking too fast. Okay. So the next is measurable, right? In all of my examples, I talked about measurement, about specific numbers, right, that we will use to know how close we are or how far we are away from our goals, right? So goals should be measurable so you have a tangible evidence that you have accomplished the goals, right? You can't just tell people, oh yeah, we're done. Well, how done are you? Or, oh, it was successful. We can say 200% of our goal. We can say 250%. Those numbers represent something to somebody in communication, right? You can't just say, oh, we did really good. Really good isn't a measurement, right? Usually the entire goal statement is a measure for a project, but there are some smaller measurements built into the goal. So the criteria that you use for a goal is really dependent upon the goal itself and then the people that are working on it, right? So really the criteria, the words you use has to mean something between you and you. If you're working on a project, you have to be able to agree in advance of what it will take to be done with this, right? So there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Just the right way is to be able to communicate in advance and to establish some criteria for success, right? I see so many people, particularly in business, that they just go and go and go. And like, oh, it's going really good. But but unless you put that, the numbers to it, if you put a date and a deadline to it, then you never know if you're really done or not. Now next, the goals have to be achievable, right? So when we say achievable, what do we mean achievable? Sorry?
Realistic.
Yes, right. So you have to be able, there have to be something that you can do. Like for instance, when my little, so I have two younger brothers. When my youngest brother was 4 years old, so somebody asked him what he wants to be when he grew up, right? And he said a fire truck, right? Yeah, you heard my fire truck. So you can't. My little brother could not be a fire truck. That is not an achievable goal for my little brother, right? He grew up to be a chef, but he did not grow up to be a fire truck, right? So I share that silly story because it just was not achievable, right? Now you could say, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a lawyer. So yes, could I be a lawyer? Sure, I could be a lawyer. And then at one point I wanted to be president of the United States. Now, what's the chance of me being president of the United States? If everything they tell you in this country, I have a good chance of being president, right? Everybody supposedly in this country could be president of the United States, right? Now, it's probably not a realistic goal, though. It's achievable. It's probably not realistic, right? So it's these types of things that you have to bring towards the language that you use in establishing these goals, right? Because if it is a preposterous goal, if it cannot happen, then why are you putting any effort into something that cannot happen? Now, relevant, right? To be relevant, a goal will represent what needs to be accomplished. Relevant goals set direction, it motivates a team, it will move an organization forward, right? A goal that supports or that is in alignment with goals is considered a relevant goal, right? So for instance, in this class, what could be a relevant goal in this class? You could get an A, right? That would be that's a great goal in this class, right? What other types of relevant goals? You could show up on time every day, right? You could have your homework turned in, right? Those are all relevant to our class, right? It's anything that is not relevant to a class. So for instance, liking my fan page. It's not really a relevant goal, right? Getting all of you to like my fan page, it's not a relevant goal, right? So those are the types of things. I'll tell you from my business experience, a lot of this seems like common sense, right? Right? But just because something sounds like common sense doesn't mean that it happens in business. Did anybody ever work for somebody in business that you had a job, you worked for somebody, and just what they did just didn't make sense? Like they would maybe give you confusing orders, like do this thing, and then the second day they yell at you, why did you do the thing? And they just told you to do it, right? So just because it says a common sense, like business isn't always common sense. Many times in business, I see people doing things that take away that are not relevant. They set goals that are not achievable, yet they're in business and they're accomplished business people, right? So these basic things that I'm sharing with you are they are basic, but I'm still surprised how many times in business I see it that they don't have the basics taken care of. Many times if you can do the basics very well, and you can do them consistently, you will be successful. Okay, let's talk about timely. Now, when we talk about timely, right, a goal should fall within a certain time frame, right? With no time frame tied to it, there's no sense of urgency, right? And if you don't put a date on something, what can happen? Right, it keeps going and going, right? Like we have my agency has a staff meeting every Monday, right? And in the staff meeting, I see things every week that like, oh, did that get done yet? No, it really didn't get done yet. And people are like, oh, we should really work on it this week. And people say, yeah, we'll have to try and do that. And then the next week comes up and that thing is still on the list, right? It's because we don't set dates and we don't set times, right? So when you set a date, again, you have something that you can manage against, right? If you don't set a date, then things tend to take longer if you don't have dates. So setting a timely date within a reasonable amount of time to help you achieve your goal will make you more successful. So let me continue on my example, okay? So specific, my company will invest to create a social media platform on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, right? Those are 3 platforms that we identified valuable to my business, right? Now, measurable, we will share 1 message a day for 3 months to build an audience of 1,000 people for each social media network. The audience will consist of 50% decision makers, 25% influencers, and 25% referrals. So again, this builds off of the 3 goals that I set earlier for my business, and now I'm setting SMART goals based on what I'm trying to achieve. Right now, achievable. I am responsible for the direction of the content. My assistant is responsible for developing it, posting according to a communications plan, and engaging with the community. We will both review the performance of each site twice a month and make corrections to the communications plan. Right, so now I name the people that are involved in this, right, and who's going to do what, right? So there's no confusion as to I was supposed to do something or my assistant was supposed to do something. And then realistic, we have a set goal of 5 new retainer clients generating $500,000 in new revenue. And then timely, we will repeat this process for 12 months and measure the value of social media network. We will also report the revenue generated from conversations from social media. Okay, so this is how I simply went down the list and created statements for each of these different goals. Has anybody done this before? Do you think you could do this today? Sure. Seems real easy, right? It's not as easy as you would think, particularly as you're trying to get people to agree on things. Right? But we are going to get into that in a bit of a group exercise, right? So, try and perk you up a little bit as all that Chipotle is sitting in your stomach. And anybody who went for the burrito, anybody have the burrito at Chipotle today? Very large burrito. Have you seen it yet? The burrito is like as big as your head. It's very, very large burrito. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to break into groups of 5, right? We're going to discuss and select a purpose, cause, or belief that inspires your group, okay? You're going to create 3 goals, and then you are going to identify how you measure these goals. So just like the examples I showed you in identifying goals for my company, I'm going to ask you now to break into groups, right? Again, groups of 5, 4 or 5, I'd like to say no larger than 5. You're going to discuss and select a purpose. You can be a real company. You know, you could be a pretend company. You can be in anything that you want, but it should be business related, either business to business, business to consumer, or nonprofit, right? And then create 3 goals for your company, and then you need to identify, like through the SMART, is how you are going to achieve those goals. Is there any questions on this assignment? Yes. Yeah, well, the goals is going to be, so the goals will be related to the business, but we are looking, you know, it's a social media class, so you want to work social media into this somehow. Yes?
For your admins, how do you for how percentage is going to be like decision makers or
That is for you and your team to figure out.
But is it, how do you know what that's going to happen?
Well, give me, for instance, what's your business?
For instance, I don't know, a restaurant chain.
Okay, so you want to be a restaurant chain. What is your goal to add more restaurants? Or well, it depends on what your goal for your restaurant chain.
Okay.
Right?
So if I, for example,
Listen up, please.
if I want to be bigger and open more restaurants,
That would be one of your goals.
okay, and so how can I choose the audience of my social media?
Well, okay, so to achieve your goal, what people would you have to attract? Maybe investors, right? It could be people who own restaurants already that aren't part of the chain, that maybe want to be part of the chain, right? You could look at it from, you need to attract management to grow. You'll need employees to come in. Okay? Any other questions on our assignment? All right, please get into your groups. I will walk around and assist you where you have questions. Please raise your hand, and we'll start with a half hour, and we'll see how you do with this. Okay, please begin.
C'est bon? Choisis? Ouais. Je vais juste aller au stade. Et donc, comment? Aux toilettes. Pas trop bien gêné. Aujourd'hui.
Ça reste en choix.
Ça va, vous êtes